level there who's very concerned about the propriety of this whole case. They see this as a family matter. They see the young lady as a person who has not yet reached legal majority in their country. Legal age is 21. She's 19. They see this as a family dispute. Both, according to this diplomat, have violated international laws. He has tried to kidnap a young lady and taken her to U.S. soil, and she has left the country without the proper documentation. This official indicated to me that both would not be punished, that the family wants this amicably resolved, and that they would like to see this resolved as quickly as possible. I have my reservations ultimately whether or not those agreements would be guaranteed and whether or not they would be safe if returned to Bahrain.
What sort of dangers or possible persecution do you think she might face?
That region is replete with so many different types of agendas, unfortunately. 60% of the export of Bahrain is petroleum, and that region marks one of the more interesting strategic military installations that the United States government has. The fact is that cases involving princesses, royalty, secrets of state, and oil, money, and business, it just makes a bad formula for a young couple who are trying to start their nuptials on U.S. soil.
But what specifically do you think might happen? Do you have any indication of that?
Well, right now we know that the forum is in the immigration court. Unlike the Elian Gonzalez case, these people will have a day in court to make their case. The fact is that this young lady is part of a social group. She fears being persecuted and should be returned only if she's had a day in court here. I believe that they will have a bite at the apple, that the judge ought to remove the charges that are pressed against her right now. It is unfair to use the entry as an issue when she is faced with such dire persecution if returned to Bahrain.
But as you point out, the Bahrain government says she won't face any persecution or any kind of legal action.
Well, Saddam Hussein said the same thing to a brother or a brother-in-law within the last year or two. That brother returned, and then he had him summarily murdered. The fact is that this is the royal family. This is a cousin to the sitting head of state. This is a terrible embarrassment to the folks there. Miss Vandergrift, who is the granddaughter of this commandant, has tried to reach out to the couple to see whether or not something could be brokered, something should be arranged so that they're given safe haven on U.S. soil. The asylum laws and the nuances there might prevent this unless some good lawyering is had.
What do you think of the chances right now that she will be able to stay in this country?
I think she has a very good chance. I'm glad that it's before a judge. The fact is that she had a credible fear interview when she entered the United States. She has to establish again through a higher standard of proof, because she got married once she was challenged at the border, that she is entitled to political asylum. A fear of persecution based on being part of a social group or having a political opinion, these are things that need to be put together and culled out. I've represented scores of diplomats and notables in that region who have come to our shores here with telling intelligence information. This young lady should be promoted and helped, and I hope that this whole thing will be amicably resolved.
Oh, there's been a lot of publicity about this particular case. What kind of effect does that have on it?
Publicity can only aggravate the circumstances. Imagine when deals are being brokered concerning oil, when oil is so expensive and 60% of Bahrain is dependent on this, how this factors into it. Money, strategic military installations, and politics play a very bad role when it comes to the life of a young couple. These people are impassioned from their hearts and need to be given an opportunity to avail themselves of Lady Liberty and the principles with which our founding fathers established ourselves. We are a safe haven. This is a Marine Guard that brought his wife here. There are many legal questions that I'm concerned about. Maybe she didn't know necessarily that he committed some fraud. Why should we inure that to her? The fact is she entered the United States, fears going back there, and she should be given a reasonable day in court to present that, and I believe she has a good case.
Now, U.S. Senator Barbara Boxer from California has entered the fray here, and she has said that she does not think that the young woman should be sent back to Bahrain. What impact does it have to have a U.S. Senator on your side?
Tremendously important. U.S. senators write letters and get involved in these cases because, unfortunately, the law is set up in a very arbitrary, standardized way. Right now, because she has not been of age of majority, she could be prosecuted, and the asylum law might look at her as a person who's trying to escape prosecution rather than being persecuted. The more hands they have helping them, the more people in Congress that are giving oversight to the Immigration Service in general when it comes to adjudications, is very important. Thankfully, this is before a judge. It is not as unilateral as the Elian Gonzalez case was, where the Immigration Service was controlling the shots. And of course, we're dealing with people that are adults and should be given deference. These people deserve to be where they want to be. If they broke laws, that has been paid for already. The husband has already been demoted, from what I understand, and this can only embarrass nations if it continues for periods of time.
What effect does it have that her parents have said they will come to this country? They've retained a law firm in Washington, D.C. How does that affect the equation?
The spokesman for the government indicated the same, but again, I don't trust any of that short of a deal cut in writing that would give them the right to be on U.S. soil. The fact that a father says this, and in a government that is not democratic, that is run by a royal family, holds little weight and serves little water when we have a couple that is blatantly violating fundamental Muslim law. A young lady marrying an American has violated Muslim law. The law of the land is Muslim there. And if she is returned there, she could be executed, and that is something that is not to be taken lightly.
You really think she could be executed?
Absolutely. As an example not only to others, but as an example to other royals and members of the family that would consider to take the same activity. Imagine this. Bahrain is a next-door neighbor to Saudi Arabia that also is a family led by royalty. There is a big deterrent factor when people like this get tremendous international play and are not resolved speedily by the government. Any assurances that are to be made in that region have to be handled with kid gloves, and I would caution the couple to make sure that they have some good lawyering.
All right, Mr. Wild, thank you very much for your time and your input on the matter. Appreciate it.
Pleasure.
Thanks. We'll get you a tape as well.
Excellent.
A prominent immigration attorney in New York says he thinks the so-called Princess Bride has an excellent chance of staying in this country. An immigration judge in San Diego ruled Monday that Miriam Al Khalifa needs to seek political asylum to stay in the U.S. She is a member of the Bahrain royal family who entered the country with a Camp Pendleton Marine. The two have since married. We spoke by satellite today with attorney Michael Wild, who had just spoken with a highly placed Bahrain government official.
This official indicated to me that both would not be punished, that the family wants this amicably resolved, and that they would like to see this resolved as quickly as possible.
But Wild, who has handled a number of similar cases, doesn't believe that. He thinks Al Khalifa would be in great danger if she were ordered to return to Bahrain.
A young lady marrying an American has violated Muslim law. The law of the land is Muslim there. And if she is returned there, she could be executed, and that is something that is not to be taken lightly.
You really think she could be executed?
Absolutely. As an example not only to others, but as an example to other royals and members of the family that would consider to take the same activity.
Wild says U.S. Senator Barbara Boxer's involvement could help tremendously. Boxer has gone on record saying the young woman should be able to stay in this country. A prominent immigration lawyer says the princess who married a local Marine should be in fear for her life if she goes home. A judge ruled Monday that Miriam Al Khalifa needs to seek political asylum to stay in the U.S. She is a member of the Bahrain royal family who eloped to this country with a Camp Pendleton Marine stationed in Bahrain. Attorney Michael Wild is in communication with the Bahrain government. He says the princess is in real danger if she returns home.
A young lady marrying an American has violated Muslim law. The law of the land is Muslim there. And if she is returned there, she could be executed, and that is something that is not to be taken lightly.
U.S. Senator Barbara Boxer says the princess should be allowed to stay in this country.